Hello, everybody. So this second roundtable will be about second-hand, tomorrow's fashion raw material. And we are still waiting Linda. She's coming as quickly as she can. So let's introduce our speakers. So Liv, can you introduce yourself in few sentences?
Hi everyone, I'm Liv. I'm a consultant and educator, and I'm working on making circularity the new norm in the fashion industry.
Thank you very much.
Hi everyone, I'm Camille. I'm the co-founder of Crush On, which is the omnichannel marketplace for circular fashion, and we want to delete textile waste by making vintage the first way to buy fashion.
Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Charlotte. I'm the co-founder of Seconde, an app that enables to purchase second-hand fashion online across different catalogs and platforms, and that enables to find similar items based on images, so screenshots and pictures that you can also upload on the app to find similar items to buy second-hand.
Wow, thank you.
So my name is Diewertje de Wagenaar. I'm a researcher, sustainable textiles in the Netherlands at Wageningen University in Research, and manager of our circular fashion lab. We work on dematerialization, so reducing production and consumption, bio-based materials, recycling. So that has to do with production, a lot of behavior, and we do that both for research and education.
Wow, thank you. Daphne.
Yes. Hello, my name is Daphne. I'm the co-founder of Risa Paris. Risa Paris is an upcycling brand founded here in Paris with my friend Mona. We take like second-hand clothes, we transform them in our workshop in Paris to give them a new life. Sorry.
Thank you very much. So my first question for you is, what are the key data to know about the place and evolution of second-hand fashion? Because we know that is more than a trend, right? Anyone?
I mean, if you want, I can kick it off. Like, second-hand fashion has been growing so much. It's been rocketed up by 100% between 2016 and 2021. And it's gonna be like growing even more, like by 50% in the next 3 years. So this is huge. And it's something existing for a really long time. It started in the 1900s with like charity shop, with like collecting goods to resell them. And it's something that's like now is more normalized. And that's a really good way of being like more sustainable.
Thank you. Yeah?
I think I could add some metrics around textile waste also. So today there is 92 million tons of textiles that are wasted every year. That's enough, and it's gonna it's gonna be 1,028 by 2030. So it's gonna be a lot, and we need to do something with this waste. I think if we would stop producing new garments today, we would have enough textile and garments in order to dress the entire earth for many generations. So yeah, secondhand is a real business opportunity.
Thank you. Diewertje?
Yes, I would like to add to that. We developed a course, Circular Fashion, massive open online course. It's still available online. And I think 25,000 learners already subscribed for this course in 2020. And what we did is we asked all of them to do a mini wardrobe study. So we looked into their wardrobes, they counted all the items that they have based on 17 categories, and we knew how much was unused, how much was secondhand. So from that, we know, also this was an international sample, so not just from Wageningen, from the Netherlands. And from that, we learned that we have roughly 132 items in our wardrobe, which is already quite a lot. And 25% of that is unused. So that's a major resource for improving reuse for other customers. But also around 17% is already secondhand. And when we look at the data from other wardrobe studies, one particularly done in 2017, we learned that it was 6%. So that's already quite a lot of an increase. And from this study, we also know that males have less secondhand items, also less items overall, of course. And what was also interesting was that the age group between 31 and 50 also had less secondhand items. So I think this is, a really great starting point to understand how can we improve reuse and design interventions that can help us do that. Also, to add, the most used, the clothing items that we had in secondhand were mainly tops and t-shirts, coats and jackets, and sweaters and cardigans. So those are already quite accepted to buy and use secondhand. So I think it's really interesting data, and we need much more like that to improve.
Anyone else?
Yes, maybe to add on these explanations. We know secondhand is today, of course, more and more trendy, and that people buy more and more secondhand. But today, only 10% of secondhand fashion is bought. Is bought secondhand. So the potential is huge, and considering also all the items that have already been produced, we could really go much further and have more and more in the future items bought secondhand, and that shows a bit the potential that is still huge, even if the trend has already been very positive lately in that direction.
Thank you. So regarding what we could do with all those second-hand textile products, items, how can second-hand fashion fuel circular models? Because I guess they are good second-hands and bad second-hand in the sense that for instance, the company which used the second-hand as raw materials, I know that if it's very complicated if the clothes is made in certain materials associated with another one. So anyone want to say something about it?
Yes, I
Maybe
think
you.
it's,
Yes.
yeah, I think it's one of my subject. The point with the quality is a very main point for us, upcycling brand, because when we take all the clothes, we can do when we sort all the clothes, we have all kind of qualities. So we have to deal with all the kind of qualities. So even if second-hand will be a big market, we have to think about the quality, but in their first lives. Because even if when we are going to rework on it, we are going to face this problem of quality. So I think second-hand will be and is going to be a very good and big market, maybe the major market for the fashion industry, but some problems still be the same.
And I think if we really want to enter into circular model, if we really want to close the loop and to make second-hand something viable and that can last in time, we really need to think of the quality of clothing since the beginning when it's produced. So we really think when we do first-hand fashion, we really need to understand how is to think about how the end life of the garment, so it can just close the loop and last the longest it can.
And as well, I would add to raise awareness, because it's more like how we look after our garments as well. Don't buy something because it's secondhand if you don't need it, to repair it, and to really keep in mind all those tips to have that durability factor as well, which is really important, because it's just using it as much as possible and not feeling less guilty because you're buying something secondhand.
And if the quality is not there, they can have the second life. We can use it.
And I believe as well there is a responsibility from brands to what extent they embrace second-hand fashion and how they do so, with which model. Because, for instance, there are, I don't want to name brands, but there are some brands that have models where they're more encouraging buying new instead of second-hand, with, for instance, vouchers that are used when you sell second-hand. The client can then buy first hand with voucher that the brand offers. And I think these types of models are more encouraging actually also the fact of purchasing new as well. And I think that in the future they will have to be, and they will be, more models that are really embracing circularity much more than these in other ways. And I think this is also super important to think about the full model, and not only selling secondhand, but also how you deal with the garment at the beginning, and the second life, but the first life as well at the beginning.
Yeah, I very much agree. And I'm also just wondering, this is from our latest research, that we want to identify whether these secondhand items that people actually purchase, whether they are in addition to other items they already buy firsthand, or whether they actually replace some of the items they otherwise would have bought from virgin materials. So do we actually really reduce the amount of materials, energy, etc., that's necessary for the production? That's still quite a question. We don't have the answer to that yet, but...
Thank you. What role for fabric and clothing manufacturers given the rise of second-hand? Because we already have a lot of companies, we talked about it just before, they are here for some of them, that have based their business models on volume and new clothes fabrications. How could those businesses appropriate themselves the second-hand fashion, integrate it into maybe their economic model?
I think one important thing is to realize that our resources are limited now. So to really preserve them and to not create like any more waste, but like really like keep it in the loop and see it like as a huge opportunity as well. And to really make sure like it stays in rotation, like it's something that we use, and the waste of someone else is going to be like the treasure of like another person. So it's really like to collaborate more and to be able to like really embrace that.
I think it's also a logistical issue, because those brands are not used to deal with unique pieces, and secondhand is all about, circular fashion is all about unique pieces. So I think it's you need to shift the way you're doing logistics, and it can be hard for brands that are used to do one pieces, but you have 1,000 of them behind. To think about unique pieces. So yeah, it's a shift, and it's maybe not their work. So I think we need to connect them to professionals that are able to select quality garments for them, and give them the ability to own qualitative secondhand.
Thank you. So Linda has just joined us. Maybe you can introduce yourself in few words, and then I will ask my question again to you, because I think you will have some insights to share with us about it.
All right. Hello everyone. Nice to meet you all. I'm Linda Maifung. I'm the founder, and I'm running a sustainable fashion design studio, and also I'm a CSR consultant for... Sorry, I was running.
Take your time, no problem.
Fashion founders, sustainable fashion founders, but also mid-sized companies. And related to our topic today, I also worked with Vestiaire Collective on a small project to study about how to implement more CSR through the whole user journey.
Thank you. Well, maybe you can explain what is CSR.
What is CSR? CSR is RSE, Responsabilité Sociétale des Entreprises, and in English?
Corporate and Sustainable
Responsibility. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
So,
Ouais.
so my question was about the role of fabric and clothing manufacturers given the rise of second hands. Because we know that there are plenty of existing companies working in textile, and they maybe have a role to play, but they don't know how to start with those second-hand textile items.
Okay, so the opportunities for
Manufacturers to work with second hands, maybe?
To me, they have to be more agile, and because I worked for small fashion brands and also mid-sized one, I feel like when going through all those textile fairs, it's pretty difficult for people who start up their own company. And I see more and more suppliers opening their stocks to small brands, which is great. I know it's quite difficult because volumes is more interesting. You know, ordering fabrics in quantities is more interesting, but it's also great if they can open their stocks to the small brands. And
that's a good idea. So open the stocks. Any other?
Yes, if I can add something, it's like we with Resap we made some collaboration with other brands. It was all about agility because they have so much like rules and they can't like it's. For us, it's easy to say, okay, open your stock and we can come and take all the stocks. It's okay, we will do this and that. But in the real life, it's not that much easy because they have so much rules about this kind of stock, this kind of default on the clauses, everything. So yeah, I think they have to work on all these rules, and we have to work together to
help.
Exactly.
Thank you. Another question. What challenges remain to be met in order for second-hand fashion to seduce the most reluctant and become more efficient from an environmental point of view? I guess there are some people who are not yet buying second-hand clothes, right? Why?
I think we need to make second-hand fashion more accessible, and that's why with Crushon we really want to keep the omnichannel DNA, the omnichannel DNA in our way of doing business, because we think that we, in order to touch all type of consumers, both young consumers but also people that are not used to go in thrift shop, or people that maybe never saw a thrift shop in their life and only go to department stores like Galeries Lafayette or Printemps or any big department store. We really need to open and make accessible vintage garments in those places where you can find at the same time first-hand garments and second-hand garments mixed the same way. So I think this is a challenge, making it accessible for everyone, both online and offline.
Thank you.
Yeah, I very much agree. When we look at behavioral science, we know that we have to include both motivation, capability, and opportunity in order to really get to that behavioral change. So we start with awareness, right, within motivation, understanding why we have so many unused items, why recycling is so difficult, etc., what the opportunities are of second-hand fashion. Then when we go to capability, it's more about training and education. So how do we repair? How do we those types of things, and then opportunities. So that's indeed the accessibility, for example. But what's also interesting is that we did just a super tiny study in the Netherlands with, I think, 30 participants. So it's really, really small, and it's not really a great sample. But what we learned was understanding this came from the food industry, where we know that certain foods trigger negative emotions, such as disgust. So we took that and we moved it to textiles, and we took certain T-shirts. So it was a cotton T-shirt, organic cotton T-shirt, a nettle T-shirt, PLA, so polylactic acid from a bio-based source, and we had a second-hand T-shirt. And we moved them virtually through the journey of buying it, reading information on the label, and touching the material. And what we learned was that people actually... We monitored the heart rate, the facial expressions, and the skin reactions, and we learned that people are indeed disgusted by the second-hand T-shirt. So this is not great, right? But it really gives us more information about where we need to improve our awareness and where we should put all of our interventions.
And if I can just add something on that, this is crazy because when you speak about sustainable fashion or recycling fashion or upcycling, it's like something that costs a lot and it's like luxury because it's unique pieces. And people are not ready to put the price they should because they are used to pay not the good price for fashion today.
We have to add desirability, I think, on second-hand too.
Yes,
And
that's
another, oh, sorry.
yeah. Sorry, Charlotte.
Another barrier to me as well, that I think is quite important today, is that buying second-hand fashion is more complex usually than buying new still, for different reasons. And I think one of them is that it's more difficult as a buyer to really see how you're going to wear an item second-hand and how you are going to be able to have like a full style and have it's linked to desirability as well, but also have a good image of how it's going to look like. And I think there are several ways to really help this remove this barrier. And with 1 second, we're also trying by offering the ability to scan an item and find similar ways, similar second-hand fashion item to buy, to be able to reproduce styles that you found somewhere and to buy pieces from these looks. And I think this is really something that we have with new and that we need to do more with second-hand to work on desirability even more.
I wanted to add something as well. We all talking about the same thing. Right now, we feel like people are buying second-hand because it's cheaper, and it's a good replacement to fast fashion. But they are very creative and original brands like Rissab Paris, who makes second-hand fashion and upcycling looks desirable and cool and creative, and that's what we miss in fashion today, is that we lost the sense of emotional attachment to clothes, how it makes us feel and how we can express ourselves in terms of fashion. And yeah, we have to find this connection back. And the same with Crochan. I really witnessed that you are trying hard to show some styles, some looks, and yeah,
but
people
that's why I was asking my previous question about how the existing players of the fashion economy can jump into this opportunity mentioned about the second-hand, because if you know how to create desirability for new items and you know how to produce them, you should be also able maybe to repair, to transform, to reintroduce, to recreate seduction with older items. Typically, this is what you are doing, right?
Exactly. But for example, we ask our customer why they buy clothes from Rissab, and we were surprised that they said not the first answer was not like because of sustainability. It was because it's pretty, it's beautiful. I love the style. I love everything. So I think that this question of desirability is very important, and maybe the main point. And with everything of sometimes I think that because we are doing sustainability, we forget this. We forget that we are in fashion industry. We are here to sell like beauty.
Yeah, I mean, this is what you see in every behavioral study, also just about sustainable fashion, right? It's just design and price come first, and then for the main group of consumers, then sustainability.
Something funny is, sorry, Liv, you wanted to say something, yes.
Basically, something as well really important for like secondhand would be to normalize it, because we do that for like cars, like furnitures, like, and we love them, and it's really like something unique behind it. But like for fashion, it's still not there yet. So I think it's such a big challenge to make it normal, because that's something super normal, and that's a great alternative as well to fast fashion. That's affordable. It's as well can be like an inclusive option, because you have like more body shape options, you have like more uniqueness, and that's the most sustainable option because it's already existing. You don't need any new resources to create it. So, but just to make it normal, because that's cool.
Yeah, something funny is that it was specifically, like, it jumped to my eyes last time on the fair. I saw manufacturers creating vintage styles for new garments. And at this point, I understand that the style is so important.
They copy upcycling too. The
Yeah.
style of with everything with
No,
patchwork.
it's funny. It's
I was like, what?
But the issue with secondhand is that you cannot have a precise idea in mind and just get it. And that's why brands need to reproduce
yeah.
vintage style garments, because they cannot take the enough amount of clothes they just want. So that's kind of hard, yeah. That's a logistic point of...
In the denim sectors, it's super important to have this little
The
hole.
washes, yeah.
Yeah.
The fake, the old-looking used
Yes.
denim, yeah.
So we like it when it's new, but it's disgusting when it's not.
Yes, and what I forgot was actually that when we put them into a high-end shop virtually in this journey, they were even more disgusted. So this is also something to keep in mind when we add these second-hand items into retail stores. How do we then design this journey for them? It's apparently really important. Yeah.
So my last question is, can second-hand fashion be a source of opportunities for brands? I guess your answer will be yes.
For sure.
But maybe can you go further and demonstrate us how it could be opportunity?
First, there is of course the image impact that is super important, and it's important brands engage and embrace secondhand. First, also to be seen positively by their consumers, because it's super important to act also for more circularity in this industry. But in terms of business as well, it really can bring a lot to brands. We know that a lot of people discover a brand sometimes by buying it secondhand for the first time. So they have heard about a brand, it's a bit expensive, but they buy it secondhand to be able to afford it, and then they discover and create this attachment to the brand. So after, it really helps people being close to the brand as well, having this possibility to offering the possibility to buy secondhand. And it can also bring a lot when it comes to having like secondhand items in shops, so that people also come to buy secondhand, and you have people that will also connect to the brand this way. So that's just a few examples.
It's definitely reaching a new audience as well, like as you say, because you would have people, for example, fascinated by like premium luxury, and they would be like, oh, that's a good way like to get into that field. But as well to embrace a new business model, because brands need to move towards like the circular economy. So that would be like a first step. And as well, like that's a new source of revenue for them, because they still like can make money that way, instead of selling something new to sell something like secondhand. And I think it's so many like opportunities with secondhand, so brands should really look into that.
Yeah, if you explore the whole set of solutions of the circular fashion economy, you can think about how to double or triple the revenue of only one item, actually, if you keep it inside the loop of your own business model, and repair it, recreate from your stock, and also exploring the subscription model as well for maybe your client base who cannot yet afford the full price of your product. And there's so many solutions behind secondhand. There's secondhand means second life, so second revenue, and yeah.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I'm just add that this can be an innovative opportunity too. The brand can like let all the customers know that they made things, they want to change, they want to be more sustainable, more innovative, and more everything.
Yes, I wanted to share with you my own experience with one of the limits of second-hand fashion. I bought on vide dressing clothes. I think it was a pair of jeans, and it was smelling cigarettes, but so strongly, you can't believe it. So how platforms can control the like the basic standards of the clothes they are selling. In this case, because they are selling directly from consumer to consumer. So how can they control this kind of thing?
It depends because you have some resale platform as well.
Yeah.
I used to work for a client that specialized into like resale. And the smell is actually one of the things that put people off. They don't want to buy secondhand because that can smell. You have like some sustainable solution, like not using like water, like ozone machine. You put like your garments into an ozone machine. It kills all the germs, so it's like safe. You don't have any bacteria because people can freak out that it has like some bugs or like anything, and it doesn't smell. It's really like something where you just like you smell it afterwards. The cigarette smell is fully gone.
Yeah, this is what I have done in the end. But I guess it's one of the issue because some people maybe they don't have the mindset or whatever. Like, of course, I thought, okay, I just need to wash it and that's it. But maybe there's something to do to educate people about how, when they receive a second-hand clothes, how they can, wash it properly. Or I remember one of my friends, she's working in vintage as well, and she told me to put things in the fridge.
In the freezer.
Freezer, yes, the
You
scarves.
can also mix vodka with some peppermint essential oil. Mix it and then spray it.
Okay,
Then it will
good to know.
all the bacteria and so on.
But that's the thing, we're lacking like that education side, because for brands, for like for anything, like we really need to like talk more about those and make it normal, because you could just have like bicarbonate, like white vinegar, like you spray it and it's just like doesn't smell anymore. And it's the kind of thing where it's kind of like, oh, like, but it's complicated. This is not. It's just like to talk about it and to understand like what you do, like, because every problem has a solution, so it's not that complicated.
And as a buyer, you also have the choice in terms of risks, and you can choose, for instance, platforms that do quality control and that do these checks also, or you can trust a seller that has a lot of rates and think that you will have like a lower chance to have these issues as well. So I think there is a lot of education as well, as you said, to as a buyer being able to know and see if you're ready to use these grandma tips to give a second life to items that you will buy at good prices, or if you prefer buying on other platforms that do these checks for you.
I think all of them, more or less, they do control for luxury items if the seller is asking for it. But yes, this kind of control, I don't know anything about it. But yeah, I guess it's in the CG.
If I can add something about Crushon, we are only working with professional sellers, and we are looking on every pieces on the website, but moreover we look on the quality of the garments that one professional seller can give. So we select them upon this quality, and that's why we decided to work with professional and not with consumers to consumers. It's really because they have the ability to have an eye on what is a real qualitative clothing, what is a real vintage clothes, because sometimes you can just buy a Zara on vintage and just it's not vintage, it's secondhand, but it's not gonna last a long time. So that's why we are doing on Crushon, it's like real vintage selected by professional, and that makes a difference.
Yes, definitely.
I would add something as well, like it's more we haven't like really like talk about like packaging, because when you're buying second hands, like you really need as well, like if you're a seller or like all those things, to make sure that you don't over package it, because otherwise like what's the point? Like don't you like as well don't wash your clothes way more because it's second hands, and it's just like all those common sense thing, like to really like don't assume that it's like something that, oh, it's secondhand, everything is fine, and so it's really to keep in mind as well.
Do you want to add a conclusion, any of you, before we ask to the audience for their questions?
I do.
Yes.
I'm very happy to be here, and I just wanted to say a final word that secondhand is the greatest tomorrow's fashion raw material. However, it shouldn't exist, and it's actually kind of how do you say, a symptom of how we in the fashion industry deliberately overproduce textile and garments, and this shouldn't be the norm anymore.
Yes, and also the way the customer use fashion as something they can like
dispose of.
Yeah, but in the end, even if like the only way would be to make fast biodegradable clothes with the bio fabrication. And this, I know, in the Netherlands, there are plenty of fashion especially one, Aniela.
Aniela Hointing, right?
Yes.
Yeah. She works with the mycelium.
Yes, and she has introduced this notion of fast biodegradable fashion, but it's still very difficult to produce, to industrialize this kind of clothes. I guess, except in this precise case, it's impossible to presume what would be the end of life of one clothes, because you have only one life. So, so at certain points, the clothes will go to your children or whatever. And so at this stage, I guess there will always be a second life for clothes anyway. But yeah. So any other conclusion?
No, I really agree with this. We have 132 items in our wardrobes. That's a lot, right? And a quarter of that we don't use at all. And I think that's just, let's at least reduce that. But also I have to, about that notion of degradable fashion, which is really not always the case, usually not. There also goes a lot of energy into developing this material, mycelium, and I'm not really a fan of, this notion of, okay, we can just, after one wear or after a few wears, we can just put it in the ground and it will decompose. So all of that energy and material will be lost as well. And I think we really need to make sure that we extend the use of those materials in whichever way possible. Also with the bio-based, hopefully even biodegradable materials.
That's exactly it, to preserve our resources. And as Camille said, like, we have like way enough like clothes existing, so let's just like use them, look after them better, and just like, even if it's like, as you say, biodegradable or whatever like brand are trying to sell you, just reuse. That's the best way.
Yeah, it's a mindset. The consumption, fast consumption versus the sustainability in the end, long-lasting things. So do we have questions in the audience to ask to our speakers? Anyone? I'm sure you have, about second hands. No one? Yes, you have one question.
Just sorry to say, so in the entire event, I could hear second hand quite a lot of times, second hand, second hand, second hand. So when you want to sell second hand, basically it's a bit psychological as well. You have to understand the psyche of the buyers. Once you say second hand, the psyche of a customer doesn't feel good, and that's what your test was about. They don't feel good, their levels were down or something. So I guess the first thing, anybody should come up with an alternative word which is not second hand. It could be, many celebrities sell their clothing, old clothing. That's second hand, but it's sold at a very, very high price. Even Rolex, if you buy second hand, it's even more expensive than you buy it first hand. So the model has to be where the psyche of the customer doesn't feel like they're buying something which is of less value. So it has to be that they're buying of a higher value. Maybe brands can sell second hand at a higher price than the first hand. That could be the psyche, or I'm wearing this. So if you try to sell second hand at a lower price, that won't give a feel-good factor to a customer. That's my feeling.
Good idea.
Thank you for your remark. yes, it's the discussion that we had before. Shall we sell it at a higher or lower price? Anyone want to add something?
I think when it comes to the second-hand item mentioned, we at the Collective we used to also talk about pre-loved pieces, because indeed some pieces have an history, and that brings a lot to also the items, and that proves as well that they can last in time, which is also a good added value. So I think indeed it's important to maybe work on words that are also positive, and also explain what it brings in addition to know this item has already lived in the past. And usually it's a good reassurance to how long it's going to last as well, which is super important. So I think the story we tell around secondhand is super important indeed as well, and also what we value in this item is something important we need to do, and brands need to do more.
Yeah, it's funny because in the previous roundtable we were mentioning the passport based on blockchain to inscribe this history within the product itself, so that the clothing is wearing its own history during his life, entire life. And that's funny because it's exactly what you said. If we can have a trace of who gets the clothes and what happens to that garment from the very beginning, from the raw materials till the very last person who maybe will transform into something else. That's something which can create added value, as you said. Yeah.
And if we talk about regulations coming up as well with the Circular Economy Action Plan, it's on that. Like, it's so on point, because one of the main action plan is like to reduce waste. How do we reduce waste and preserve our resources? By reusing. So completely. And another thing really important to achieve it would be to collaborate, to make sure that everyone can collaborate better, so all this stock and potential garment are not just like ending up in landfill, but they really like circulate and go to the right people.
I think it connects with what you were saying, Linda, before about emotional value as well. Now you are discussing monetary value, but what types of value do we need to add to the pieces in order to make sure that they are loved, they last, they are extended in terms of their use? I'm not sure if the monetary value is the way to go, but there are different types of values that I think are important to connect with it. The purpose of the creation? Yeah. For example? I don't have an answer.
So maybe we can discuss further after the roundtable about all of those questions. Yes, after we have a last roundtable, it will be in French. Faire de la circularité une réalité industrielle. So in the continuation of our topic. So if none of you have anything to add, we will go further with the audience. Thank you so much for being here and share with us your insights. Thanks everyone.
Welcome.
Thanks a lot.